welcome to Media. This is your host Umar Tariq. Assalamu alaikum. Some of you have asked me, Umar bhai, can you please explain the entire naturalization process? So, I'll make a quick video on this. Before you do start working on naturalization, I think one thing that I would recommend you to do is make sure you have filed taxes for past 5 years. If you have not filed taxes for any of the year in the past 5 years, file it now, and you can basically that means is that just put zero in everything. If you didn't make any money, but it's very important to file it. So put zero for income, put zero for tax owed and all that. But at least it has been filed from your end, and IRS has a record that this person filed and tax even with zero income. Then once you do that, you get transcripts from IRS for the past 5 years, and that is if saying that you did file tax for past 5 years, and your income was zero or whatever it was. That is if your continuous residence requirements was 5 years. If your continuous residence requirement was 3 years, then in that case, you file taxes for past 3 years. And if you don't know what this means, please watch my video on the how when you can apply for naturalization. Now the question arises: okay, once you have done that, how you apply? There's basically just Google N400, N for Nancy, N400. So basically, you just fill out the N400 form. There are two ways you can do it. You can do it paper versus online. I recommend everyone to do online. It's so much more simpler and easier. I've done both, paper for myself and online for my relatives, my wife, my parents, my friends. And I think online is so much more simpler and easier. So do the online N400. Get transcripts from IRS. You can directly upload them. They might ask you for your ID and all that. And it's a very simple process. You need to enter your dates. You have come from your home country to US. When did you exit? You need to put all those dates. So make sure you have your passports handy. You have the record of all that. They will ask you information about your parents, your siblings. So all this stuff is very important. Make sure you have their date of births. All this information. Moving on, let's say you have filed N400 online or whatever, and it's gone to the USCIS. So now it will take them 2 to 3 weeks to send you a letter telling you, okay, we have received your application. 2 to 3 weeks after that, or typically I will say anywhere between 4 to 10 weeks of your application submission, they will call you for biometrics. What does biometrics mean? You go there. Wherever they call you, they take your picture, they take your fingerprints. So that's 4 to 10 weeks after you file for naturalization. So that was till March 2020. Everything changed in March 2020 because of COVID. So now, as far as I know, they didn't do any biometrics last year. So everything is messed up. So people who applied April, May 2020 are getting their biometrics done right now. But usually it's, like I said, usually it takes only 4 to 10 weeks. So people who applied last year, May, June, they still haven't done their biometric. So that's an FYI. Just keep that in mind. If you're applying right now, it's possible your biometric might take a year, and that's unfortunately only because of COVID. So once you get your biometric done, then you wait for 4 to 12 months, depending upon wherever you are, which state you're in. There are certain states like New York or New Jersey where there are a lot of people who have filed for immigration. It takes a lot of time. Then there are other states like Connecticut, or where there are not that many. If you're in a relatively smaller state, you will get an interview relatively sooner as compared to bigger states. So it's all that you get into the wait line for an interview then. Also, all these numbers that I'm telling you are pre-COVID. COVID messed it up. There are a lot of people who applied last year and still haven't gotten their interview or biometric because COVID messed it up for everyone. So let's say 4 to 12 months later, after submission of application, you go for an interview. So again, I've done a video basically explaining a little bit of the interview process. I'll try to do a more detailed video on the interview. On the interview, they basically just the visa officer is on your side. If you have fulfilled all the requirement of physical presence and continuous residence, if you're not a criminal, these are the things they're just making sure. So once they do that, then they take a civics test. How do you study for civics test? The civics test, basically, you can get a handbook for the civics test. That handbook, it's not that tough. But the way I prepared it, a lot of other people I know, that like there are only 40 to 50 questions. You memorize the answers of those 40 to 50 questions, and the visa officer will ask you those questions, and you need to have, I think, 8 or 9 right, something like that. Um, it's not that tough. I got all of them right. So you just memorize those questions and answer them, and it's mainly history questions, and that gives them some idea that you know about American history. So you pass the civics test. Then they will ask you some questions which you might think are silly, and you might get scared. Why are they asking you this? Like, are you linked to a terrorist organization? Are you a criminal? Have you ever been in jail? Stuff like that. They're basically just trying to make sure that they have a documented record that you don't. They tell them that you're not a terrorist, criminal, or have never been in jail. So just answer them honestly. And if you have been through on it, any of these, just answer that honestly too, and they can work with that. So you pass the test, and you answered all these questions. Then they will ask you specifically, will you protect U.S. and U.S. Constitution if the need ever arises? So you answer that. Are you willing to bear arms for U.S. if the need ever arises? So you answer that. Uh, so then you take a small, oath there that I will do all these things, and then you wait for your oath ceremony. Now, oath ceremony can vary anywhere from 1 week to 2 months, depending on, again, the state, the town you are in. There are certain places that and also, when did you take your interview? It is entirely possible you took your interview and the next oath ceremony is next week, and there is an opening. Then you get to take oath immediately the week later, which I did. And then I know people who uh, passed their who went through their interview, but the next oath ceremony is 3 months later or 2 months later, or there was not enough spot in the next oath ceremony, so they had to go for the one after that. So anyhow, so for the oath ceremony, you just go there. You're sitting. The judge calls your name. You go there. Hands you over a naturalization certificate with a U.S. flag. You can take your family with you, take pictures, you know, and then you leave with your naturalization certificate. Now you take this naturalization certificate to U.S. passport office or library, wherever you can apply for a passport. So the naturalization certificate, you take that, fill a form, pay them the fee, make sure you take your checkbook with you and all that, and you file for U.S. passport. So that's a very quick, brief overview of the entire naturalization process, start to end. Uh, if you're in a relatively less populated state, I think you can get it done when you apply to end in 4 to 6 months. And if you're in a more busier states, then it can take up to a year or sometimes even longer. So it's a range. Also, COVID messed it up. So right now things are pretty bad. Hopefully, once COVID is over, then they can go over the applications of naturalization faster. So anyhow, I hope you found some value from this video. If you did, please like it, share it with others, subscribe to the channel, ring on the notification bell. And like I always say, never give up, never lose hope, always work hard.